Hello everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Why It Works. My name's Jeremy, and today I wanted to talk about why some movies feel more realistic or more believable than others. I'm an engineering student at the University of Florida, and I think it's interesting to break down what makes a movie feel scientifically accurate and how we can show that better. So I was recently watching Project Hail Mary, a new movie, and I didn't understand all the science in it, and I doubt most people do. But when I watched it, it still felt realistic, and I think that's stood out to me, that I didn't understand it, and it still made sense. It never felt random, so why is that? I think it has something to do with having a system behind what's happening. There's rules in the world, and even if I don't fully understand them, the movie follows those rules the whole time. You can see this even in something like Marvel. Not everything in those movies are realistic, but they establish rules, like Thor's hammer, for example. It creates lightning, and then they stick to it, and things still work around it in real ways. They don't just change it halfway through the movie either, and consistently matters more than people realize. Because once you understand the rules, even a little bit, you start to trust what you're watching. And when you combine that with even a little bit of real-world logic, it starts to be truly believable. I think another movie that follows science really well, but also uses it to drive their story, is Interstellar. They actually worked with physicist Kip Thorne to figure out how black holes would behave. Instead of just making it look cool, they based it on actual physics. So when you see the black hole, Gargantua, and the way light bends around it, that's called gravitational lensing, it's not random. They actually simulated it, and it took days to render. And that's important because even if you don't know what gravitational lensing is, you can kind of tell that it's based on something real. It has structure to it. And there are other parts in the movie that follow this too, like time dilation. When on the water planet, like close to Gargantua, time moves differently because of how fast it's moving. And it's not actually just randomly thrown in there, it actually affects the story. Like, every minute they spend there has real consequences later. So, the science isn't just there in the background, it actually creates tension. Time is basically the main problem in the movie, but it's not a villain, it's just physics, it's how the universe works. And I think that's a really interesting way to build a story. You see this something similar like this in The Martian. When he's stuck on Mars, every problem comes down to science. If he needs water, he has to figure out how to make it. If something breaks, he has to fix it using what he has. And a lot of the time, his first solution doesn't work. And that's what makes it feel real. Because in real life, especially in engineering, things almost never work out perfectly the first time. You try something, it fails, you adjust, and then you try again. And the movie actually shows this process instead of just skipping over it. It doesn't jump from problem to solution, it shows the steps in between. And I think that makes a huge difference. And I think a common thing between these movies is they don't just mention science, they actually stick to it. Like, if something has a limitation, they don't just ignore it later. They let those limitations affect what characters can and can't do. And that's kind of how real science works. You're always dealing with constraints. You don't just have as much time, as much energy, or as many resources as you'd like. And a lot of problem solving is just figuring out how to work within those limitations. So when movies follow those limitations, it makes them feel a lot more real, even if the situation itself isn't. Because everything still makes sense. If something happens, there's a reason behind it. And if you don't fully understand the reason, you can tell that it's there. And I think that's really the difference. It's not about how complicated the science is or whether the audience understands it at all. It's just about whether the movie respects how things are supposed to work. Once it does that, you kind of stop questioning it. You just go with it. And I think that's how you make something feel real, even when it's not. Thanks for listening, and I hope you join me next time. The information in this podcast was supported by NASA, Scientific American, American Journal of Physics, and Wired.